Hello, my name is Marat, and I'm going to be talking to you about fleas today. This is a series I'm going to be doing called TechTalk, and today's subject is fleas. I think there's a lot of information that is lacking to the public about fleas, or maybe they just haven't, looked into it. So I'm going to try to help people out and just let everyone know all the information that I've learned through veterinary medicine about fleas. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a registered veterinary technician, and I work at Animal Health Care Center with Dr. Lisa and Dr. Pasalo, and they are huge advocates of flea prevention and parasite control, as well as other things like behavioral issues and training. So I will be talking about a lot of different topics in the future. But for today, I'm going to be talking about fleas. So it's a really important topic because obviously a lot of people that live in Southern California, where I'm from, or other places that are are infested with fleas, and have pets, they get a lot of issues, and sometimes people just don't know how to deal with them, or don't have the information readily available, or they go to the veterinarian and the veterinarian doesn't really educate them, just tells them about the medicine, and they're not really told why they should be using it. So I'm going to be doing that for you today. Fleas are insects, so most importantly, it's important to know what they are and what they do. So they're insects, and they're parasites. So what that means is they will use a host to survive. So they're not necessarily trying to kill our pets, they're just trying to use them to live by sucking their blood. So they're blood suckers, just like leeches. What else is there? Mosquitoes, So how does it work? How do fleas multiply so quickly and become a big issue without us even noticing? First step is a female will end up jumping on your pet, your cat or dog, when they go outside to urinate or go for a walk, and it will end up biting your pet at some point and sucking a little bit of blood, and your pet probably won't even feel it. And then what they do with that is they end up laying eggs right after they get their blood meal. They lay a bunch of eggs on your pet, and then the eggs end up rolling off when your pet's like scratching himself, and into your carpet or into the cracks of the wooden floor. I know it's pretty gross. So then those eggs end up hatching into little larvae, and they'll move around and eat the flea poop that other fleas have laid, have defecated, which is dried blood, and then they'll grow and they'll cocoon themselves like little aliens, from the movie Alien. It's pretty much just like that, on a smaller scale, and they will cocoon themselves and just wait for a host to come by. And as soon as a host comes by, they will emerge from their cocoons and jump onto your pet again, and then you'll get another generation laying eggs and multiplying, and you can see already how quickly this can become a huge infestation and a big problem if it's not caught and dealt with as soon as possible. So the best way to deal with it is to use flea prevention. Now, it's called prevention mainly because you do it even when your pets don't have fleas. This prevents them from getting fleas, because when the flea jumps and bites, or even jumps on and walks around for a little bit, they'll get poisoned, and your pet won't have to deal with, and you won't have to deal with the massive amounts of eggs hatching into more fleas and this horrible cycle starting. A lot of people come into clinics, the clinic that I work at, or Fix Nation, which I work on Saturdays, and I ask them about if their pet is getting some flea prevention, and they say he doesn't have fleas. So there's that important side to it, that it doesn't matter if your pet doesn't have fleas, unless they're 100% indoor and there's no other pets going in and out of the house. It's really, really helpful and highly recommended to use the flea prevention so they won't get them in the first place. So which medications, let's talk about which medications there are, and because there's so many different types, obviously, and it might be confusing to a lot of people, as I've noticed coming into our Fix Nation clinic. They don't know what to use, and a lot of times they know of the older methods of flea prevention, like the collars or the bathing their pet, which don't generally work as well, and the fleas do tend to survive, or if the collars are not placed perfectly, they end up not working properly. So the two best methods we have today are topical medication, which is just a liquid that you drop onto the pet's skin underneath the fur, and then the secondary is oral medications, which some of them actually prevent against ticks as well. And I'll be going over a few really good ones that work, and I'll talk to you about a couple that are on the market that are really well known that just have been kind of fading out because fleas are evolving, and they do, just like bacteria evolves, and there's MRSA, which is, if you don't know, it's a bacteria that's like immune to every antibiotic we have except like the most killer kind. I don't know much about it, but fleas have evolved to be used to certain medications that we have been using for a long time. It's just how life works. Life finds a way. So we have to always be one step ahead of the game and make new medication. So there are new medications that work way better than some of the older ones. Okay, so what should you use? Should you use an oral medication or a topical? It all depends on if you have a dog or a cat. Obviously, cats don't like pills, and it's not very fun to give a pill to a cat. Whereas dogs, you can obviously trick them a little easier, put it in a little treat. And nowadays, some of the pills they have, which I have one here with me right now, are tasty, and the dogs want it. So the one I have that I use for my pets is Simparica, and no, they don't pay me for this, but maybe they should. Simparica is one of the leading new flea medications, and it works really well, and it's tasty, so your pets like it. The only thing is that your dog has to be at least 6 months old, and it tells you on the package, and it does fleas and ticks, and it also does certain types of mites too, which is not indicated there, but it does kill certain mites. So it's a good medication, comes in like 3 doses, and that's another important thing. If your pet has fleas, you have to do at least 3 months worth of medication, or else you might not kill the generations that come after. Let's say the eggs were laid, fleas died, those eggs might not hatch for 2 or 3 months. If you don't continue doing the medication, you might blame it on the medicine, but it's actually just not the same fleas. They're the next generation that hatched, and your pet wasn't protected after 3 months. So make sure you continue doing the medicine. That's a really important step that most owners forget or just aren't informed about. The other few that I highly recommend and that we carry at our clinic, NexGard we don't carry, but that one is highly recommended. It's also very similar to Simparica. It has the same active ingredient and works for the whole month, and it works very well, and it's a chewable, delicious tablet. So that's NexGard, NexGuard. And then that one does fleas and ticks as well. There's Comfortis, which does only fleas, but it comes in a 6 months package, and I believe you can only get that one at the veterinarian. Only fleas, but it works very well. And it is a kind of not chewable, but it is a kind of a flavor to be for your pets to want it. What else? Let's see. For based on oral, there's there's also Trifexis. Trifexis is a little bit different than the others. It is a really great product, but there's a little bit of a catch. You have to do a little more work for that added bonus. So what NextGuard does is it also kills roundworms, hookworms, and whipworms, which are all pretty nasty parasites. A lot of times dogs get roundworms from eating random stuff off the ground or poop from another animal. So it's a really nice added bonus. It's a dewormer in a sense, preventer, and it does fleas. It protects against heartworm, which is not prevalent in our area, but it is. But there are claims of it being spread more easily because of pets traveling, and I think it does like biting flies and a bunch of other stuff too. So it's a wonderful medication. Now, what's the catch, you may say? Because it is a heartworm preventative, you do have to have a test, which is a blood test that you could have your pet go for at the veterinarian, and they will be taking just a few drops of blood and running a small test that takes like 20 minutes to find out if your pet actually has heartworm. And now the reason this is important is because if your pet does in fact have heartworms, it's not ideal to do the preventative because it's not the cure for it. It's not a medicine. It can actually cause more of an issue because let's say your pet has heartworms, worms in the heart. If they all end up dying because of the medicine, they could clog arteries and cause a really bad, critical emergency for your pet. So the actual treatment for heartworm is a lot different and a lot more careful and tedious than the preventative. The preventative just stops them from getting it in the first place. So that is the reason you need to do the test. And the guidelines for that are if you miss a dose of your flea medication / heartworm preventative and all that, if you miss a Trifexis dose, your veterinarian is required to test your pet even though it's not likely that they got heartworm from a mosquito bite. There's always a chance, so the veterinarian is liable and therefore has to make sure by checking the pet with a test if you miss doses. And also every year they do have to be checked for heartworm before continuing their medication. So yeah, I know that's a lot to take in, but that's Trifexis, and it is also a very good medication if you want your pet to be covered for all those things and you're a very savvy owner that doesn't mind spending a few extra bucks to get that added protection, and your pet travels. Highly recommended. Let's see, where are we going to now? So let's talk about the topical medications, the drops. The topical medications, there's quite a few. I'm sure you've heard of Frontline. I'm sure you've heard of Advantage and Advantix, and there's a bunch of other really horrible over-the-counter medications that can actually cause really serious issues. So I recommend not going for those that are not veterinary recommended. So what's good and what's not good? I hate to bash some of the products that have been doing really good for a long time, like Frontline and Advantage. I actually have Advantage here right now with me, and for cats, there's one for dogs too. And I mean, it's a great product, but I feel like it's been kind of falling off the wagon recently because my cat, I gave him Advantage and it hasn't been really working as well as I thought it would. After 1.5 weeks, it's supposed to work for a month, I saw him start itching again. So I'm just gonna stop using Advantage and move to the best product right now in the business for cats, and that's Revolution. Revolution works it doesn't protect against the heartworm and the some of these other things that Advantage does, but it does protect against a lot of good products, a lot of parasites. So it does protect against fleas. It also protects. Okay, so my mistake, actually, I had to look that up. I totally forgot. Revolution actually does protect against heartworm, and it does protect against the internal parasites like hookworms, roundworms, and ear mites. So it does protect against everything that the Advantage does, but it works better. It's a smaller amount of a liquid, and it acts in a slightly different way where it actually absorbs into the pet, and even if your pet gets like soaked or something like that after it's been absorbed, it will still continue to work, as unlike Advantage, which if your pet gets a bath or like that medication gets like cleaned off, then it won't have the same efficacy. So yeah, Revolution, my number one pick for cats, which you can get from your local veterinarian. You can also get a script from your veterinarian if you want to find it at a cheaper price, because I know they are really expensive, and it's tough. So if you are unable to provide that for your pet because it's too expensive, totally understand. You can always buy 3 doses worth, or buy a pack. Let's say I think it comes in a 6-month supply, and what happens is you can just like do 3 months worth, make sure you destroy all the fleas, and then just hold on to the other 3. If your pet ends up starting to itch, or you feel like it's been a while and it's hot season and fleas love the warm and humid times, just put another dose on, and you'll be good for a month. So you can always kind of do what you can with the funds that you have. For other topicals that I'm familiar with, Vectra is a really good one. It protects against multiple different parasites as well as fleas, and that one can be used for your dogs as a topical. And then Advantix is only for dogs. Sounds a lot like Advantage, but cannot be used in cats. Advantix is only for dogs, whereas Advantage comes in for dogs and cats. And I mean, you can try Advantage and see if it works well for you. It worked great for my dogs when I used Advantix, but Advantage I didn't have a very good experience with, unfortunately. So I'm gonna stick to Revolution for my cats and Simparica for my dogs as the oral. I really like the oral treats. NexGard also. NexGard is also a really good one. And then again, if you want your dewormer / heartworm, go with the Trifexis. And if you want more doses and just to treat the fleas, go with Comfortis. Alright, I know that's kind of a lot of information to take in, but I guess somebody's got to tell you, right? Let's talk about how long the meds are good for. So I think every single medication that I named, you give a dosage and it's good for 1 month, and then you have to give another dosage for it to continue preventing the pet from getting it. Another thing you have to be conscious of is to make sure you read your label or talk to your veterinarian. For some products are okay for pets that are 8 weeks and older, and some of the other products like Simparica, which do protect against ticks and some of the more powerful parasites, they can be unsafe for the younger pets. So Simparica, for instance, the pet has to be at least 6 months old or older. So there's all different types based on how old your pet is. And then let's talk about a few side effects. So you might be worried, it might have a poison, it's not safe. Most of these medications are tested, especially the ones that I named, have been clinically tested, and higher dosages have been used to make sure that the signs and symptoms are not drastically damaging to your pets, and all of them are FDA approved. So the worst thing you'll see is probably your pet vomits. And if you give them medication like Comfortis and your pet vomits within a certain time frame and the pill actually comes out, they will refund you the full cost of the medication. And you can, either choose to try a different medication or choose to try it again. So that's a really good thing that they do as well. A lot of the medications, also the orals, do have to be given with food, so make sure you ask of your veterinarian about which ones need to be given with food and which ones without. And then lastly, there are a few medications that if your pet has had seizures in the past, they could be bad for your pet. So any of them that have tick prevention are not good for pets that have had seizures. So keep an eye out for that. If your pet, you might not know exactly if they've had a seizure, let's say they're a new pet, just keep an eye out when you do the medication. If you see any weird mental activity, signs of seizures would be obviously the usual shaking, but there's also more subtle versions where the pet just kind of stares out into space and they start acting weird. They start like staring out into like nothingness like a crazy person, and they kind of freeze up. So there's more subtle variations. So just keep an eye out for any weird mental activity. If you see that, just stop your medicine and consult with your veterinarian. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I think we're about done. If you have any questions or I've missed a few things, this is a very extensive topic. Actually, I did remember one last thing. This is a big one. Tapeworms come from fleas. So if your pet has fleas, it doesn't mean they definitely have tapeworms, but a lot of times they can get tapeworms by trying to bite the fleas off of them. Like your cat will groom the flea off and they'll swallow one by accident because they have those bristles on their tongue, and they're very nice for catching fleas. They'll swallow them, or your dog will gnaw on his coat and swallow a flea by accident. And tapeworms actually parasitize fleas. They grow inside of them. And the reason they do that is because, I don't know, it's magical. I don't know how life works. It's pretty amazing, but they do that just to get to the pets. So then, because they would die otherwise, they grow in the flea gets eaten, and then the tapeworm ends up, surviving. As the flea dies, the tapeworm grows and it starts releasing little eggs, little segments. They look like rice. You might have seen them or heard of them. They're called proglottids, and they end up being released by that tapeworm that stays in your pet, just living off of your pet's nutritional, juices. Very gross. So, and getting rid of tapeworms is very easy, but you have to make sure you do the flea medication too. They're kind of like come together. So if you see tapeworms or your pet has tapeworms, which you'll see little rice-like looking things on their rear end, then just know that your pet definitely has fleas, and you have to treat the fleas. And the tapeworm is very easy to treat. There's pills for it, and there's also injections. It's a one-time thing. You give it, and it should kill them all within a month, and you'll be good to go. So if you have any other questions, please email me or send me a message on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and I will gladly answer your questions. All right. Peace out.